Oh, okay. Well, recording has started. Yeah, I thought recording only start when batteries officially start, but never mind, it's okay. Yeah, overall there is a lot of potential for bird watching in Sabah, not only in Mensalong, but throughout Sabah, because we have 600 over species and quite a lot of endemic bird species. So that attracts a lot of the birders from all over the world. And some more, Mensalong itself is quite close to, is actually adjacent to Kinabalu Park, quite close to Mount Tambuyokon, which is the third highest mountain in Malaysia. So I think you get a lot of interesting bird species in that area, as pointed out by Hubert and his team this morning. So that's my comment on that. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Atta, for your comments and for your answers. So, Miss Roslina Ragai, I hope that answers your question. Yeah. So, ladies and gentlemen, I see now we have 56 participants. So, please call your friends, your other colleagues to come and rejoin us again because we will begin shortly. So, the time right now is 1:50. I think I can start with the housekeeping announcement. So, ladies and gentlemen, I will start with the webinar etiquette tips. Find a suitable location, preferably a quiet location with less disturbance. Kindly use appropriate equipment. Participants are encouraged to use earphones or headphones to be able to hear the webinar clearly. Kindly introduce yourself whenever you speak and kindly write your name, organization, whenever you post comments in the chat section. Do a trial first before the actual webinar to familiarize yourself with the icons in the webinar, especially audio, and turn on or turn off the webcam. For the do's and the don'ts, kindly make sure that you have registered for the webinar. Please enter the webinar via the link given in your registered email 10 minutes earlier before the webinar starts or much more earlier than that. And participants or presenters are kindly requested to mute their device audio during the presentations and only switch it on when there is a need to speak to avoid noise interference during the webinar. And participants can provide questions via the Q&A section or click the raise hand icon to ask questions and wait for the facilitator to allow you to speak. So please kindly refrain from posting the question in the chat section because that will give us some difficulties in finding your questions and the speakers might overlook your questions. So I kindly request that everyone to please post your question in the Q&A section so it's easier for us to view the question and also as well. Yeah, so question and answer session will be open at the end of all the presentations. Kindly ask questions concisely so participants may turn on or turn off their webcam or the speakers during the presentation, so always check your webcam and kindly wait for your turn in a live setting and be alert on the person asking question or when the presenter is ready for interruption. So the facilitator will decide on the turns for asking question by observing the Q&A section and the raise hand icon. So for the don'ts, participants may not ask personal questions or non-subject related questions during the event in the chat section. Do not close your session or log out during the webinar. Participants may leave any time in between, but re-login may not be connected as it may interrupt the session. So kindly log out after the webinar finishes. And do not interrupt the presenter during his or her presentation. Kindly wait for the facilitator's approval. And a kind reminder, in the case that all participants' questions can be answered in the webinar, the speakers will answer all remaining questions by email. So please note that the webinar will be recorded and can be rewatched later, and the link will be provided to the recorded webinar. So the recorded webinar will also be posted in our YouTube account. So if any of you have any inquiries or any questions or comments or suggestions for improvement, you can always send us an email at sfdseminar2020@gmail.com or htan@sabah.gov.my. So my partner in crime, Viviani, will post that email address in the chat section. So it's easier for you to refer to it later. So we have another 5 minutes. Let us wait for another 5 minutes. Who knows, some of the participants are still outside, and are on their way home, or are on their way entering the Zoom. So I know it's evening, everybody had their lunch, so you might be a little sleepy, but I hope you're not, because for sure this evening we will serve you with a lot of interesting presentations and a lot of interesting speakers as well. You can see the line of speakers here. Everybody is looking good. Some of them are single, so you can you can actually get to know them better, of course, through their presentations. Yeah. So other than that, this morning session, maybe some of you have didn't attend the morning session. We actually have a morning session just now, and a lot of presentation had been presented, and you can kindly refer to it in the recorded webinar, which will be posted later. So now we have 77 participants, and just a kind reminder to all the speakers, the bell, I hope you can hear the bell clearly. At minute ketiga ataupun after 7 minutes, the bell will ring once, and then the bell will ring twice at the 9th minute, or when there's 1 minute left for your presentation. So your time given is 10 minutes per presentation. So I hope everybody, including myself, can present everything in time before 10 minutes, yeah, or at 10 minutes. Another 3 minutes, so we're still waiting. Now the participants, there are 82 participants, including the panelists. So I warmly welcome all of you. So I remember this one video I saw last time in YouTube. Before COVID-19, we usually do Zumba. We attend Zumba classes and everything. But now we attend Zoom, but without the bar. So that was very funny to me, because that is the reality. We are attending Zoom, but without the bar. Okay, so the 2 minutes, our first speaker is Shafika. So Shafika, please get ready. I think we can start. So ladies and gentlemen, I know there are 2 minutes, but maybe Dr. Atta would like to say more things. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to welcome our second facilitator for this afternoon session, none other than Dr. Atta Chung, or known as The Voice. Dr. Atta, over to you.
Right. Thank you very much, Beatrice, for the kind introduction, and also for doing all the housekeeping announcement. Really pleased to see all of you back for session 2 of the Mensalong Forest Reserve HoB Scientific Expedition Webinar 2020. Right, as mentioned by Beatrice just now, we had the first session this morning, which focused more on plant diversity, fungus, soil, and also bird. And this afternoon, we will be focusing more on wildlife, yeah, and also local communities, as well as potential in tourism attractions in the Mensalong Forest Reserve. And I believe that this will be equally interesting, and this info from the expedition will be used for the formulation of the conservation area management plan, as highlighted by our expedition leader in his keynote presentation this morning, which is John Sugao. I always like to call him General John Sugao, right? Because he's always cool all the time. Okay. Now, okay, it's about time. So, ladies and gentlemen, to start off with the first presentation this afternoon, I'm very pleased to present to you our fish lady, Ms. Nur Shafika Shamsu Kamal, and she's going to give us an overview on the freshwater fish diversity from the expedition. So without further ado, I'll hand over this time to Shafika.
Thank you, Dr. Arthur. Okay, let me share my screen first. So can you see my slide? Hello?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
We can see your slide.
All right. So, okay. Thank you, Dr. Arthur, for the warm welcome. Assalamualaikum and good evening, everyone. I am Shafika. I will present my findings on freshwater fish diversity in the streams within Mensalong Forest Reserve. So there are three objectives of this survey. First is to document the freshwater fish fauna. Second is to evaluate the diversity. And last is to provide recommendations for conservation from the freshwater fish perspectives. So the survey was taken in two streams, which are flowing from Sungai Pamaitan and Sungai Kapuakan. The characteristics of the Sungai Pamaitan were including clear water, bottom visible, bottom silt in pools, gravel, rapids rocks, and bedrock in riffles. While Sungai Kapuakan have brownish water, turbid flowing smoothly, sand and gravel. The survey sites were chosen based on these following condition, which is easy accessible route along the tributaries. Fish were collected by electrofishing with 1,000 watts, and stun fish were collected using scoop nets. Besides that, we will also use fish traps which baited with oil palm fruits and then left overnight. All fishes were counted and identified in situ to species level and released upon positive identification, except for voucher specimens, which were preserved in 10% of formalin for 1 or 2 weeks and transferred into 75% ethanol for long-term storage. Fishes were identified using taxonomy references such as Inger and Chin 2002 and Kotelet 2013. So for the results, the total of fish species caught was 21 with 7 families and 559 individuals. The total individual in Sungai Pamaitan is 518, while Sungai Kapuakan is 41. Both Shannon and Simpson index, diversity index, shows higher in Sungai Pamaitan compared to Kapuakan, and lower evenness in Kapuakan is indicating low species dominating the site compared to Pamaitan. So here is the species proportion according to family, where Cyprinidae is the highest with 11 species, and Mastachylidae, Nematolydidae and Balitoridae are the lowest with only 1 species in the families. So here's the checklist of fishes in Mensalong Forest Reserve. As you can see here, all species present in Pamaitan tributaries except Laeocassis and Macronathus kitty, which can only be found in Sungai Kapuakan. While 9 species caught in Sungai Kapuakan, the most abundant species is Tortambra, while the most least species caught is Homaloptrides. These are some of the fish species caught in Mensalong. This is the famous species, ikan pelian or kela or empurau, and is the most abundant species caught in the survey. It is most likely due to the water condition, where they usually live in clear waters, river, and moderate to swift flow. And also could be the tagal system that is implemented by the local around the area. And then Barbos CLA is also one of the most famous fish, especially among native Dusun people, where they usually make boso or fermented fish with rice. And in fact, most of all of these species are edible and tasty. For the discussion, Cyprin is higher due to habitat characteristics, and economically important species such as Tortambra is the most abundant species, indicating oxygenated water in the area. All recorded species were native and mostly resident to clean and clear headwater stream ecosystem. Both rivers contain fishes that adapted to fast-flowing water environment, for example, Gastromyzon, Protomyzon, and Nematodes. Most of the endemics, fast-flowing hill stream specialist species were only found in Pamaitan tributaries, for example, Barbodes, Siale, and Rasbora hapsi, and low numbers of fish in Sungai Kapokan tributaries, suggesting these species are likely to be threatened by land use change for agriculture located adjacent to the reserve, and any form of logging or land use change had a clear and negative impact on fish communities. So for the conclusion, the total number of fish species collected in the two tributaries are 21 with 9 Borneo endemics. Although most of these species are common in many streams and rivers in Sabah, they are worth keeping and can be used as bioindicator species for water quality monitoring tools. And the stream fishes are vulnerable to habitat degradation and facing potential depletion if their habitats are destroyed or the water quality reduced. These findings are beneficial for future planning on fisheries activities and conservation on the rivers in the future. So in order to protect the river systems, environmental and monitoring programs are recommended and should be conducted among the local people to increase public awareness to protect the rivers. And yep, that's all from me. Thank you very much for your attention.
All right, thank you very much, Shafiqa, for being brief and concise and also very clear. For the participants of the webinar, as mentioned by Beatrice just now, if you have any questions or comments that you would like to ask Shafiqa, you may ask towards the end of this session during the Q&A, or you can put or rather type your questions or comments in the Q&A section, which is at the bottom part of the screen here. You can type it there, and Shafiqa will be more than happy to answer your questions. And at this juncture, I would also like to welcome Mr. Indra Sunjoto. Yeah, I thought I saw his name somewhere just now. In fact, he is the Chief Information Officer of the Sabah Forestry Department and also the Chairman of the Sabah Forestry Department webinar. So welcome, Indra. Now, ladies and gentlemen, moving on, we shall have the next presentation, which is on Mammal Rapid Survey. And we are happy to have Muhammad Aminu Faiz Swiss to present to us about this mammal survey in Mensalong Forest Reserve. And for your information, Faiz has been instrumental in organizing this HoB Mensalong expedition. He's one of our key person, yeah. You can see that he presented the forest assessment this morning, and now he's also presenting the mammal rapid survey. And I was told that this is also done in cooperation with researchers and staff of Sabah Parks. So at this juncture, I also want to thank Sabah Parks for their participation in the expedition as well as this webinar. So without further ado, I hand over this time to Faiz. Over to you, Faiz.
Thank you, Dr. Atta. Before I start my presentation, can everyone hear my voice clearly? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you. Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay, this time I will present a research entitled A Rapid Survey of Mammals from the Mensalong Forest Reserve, Kota Marudut, Sabah. The team members are Dr. Rebendilus, Jabanus, Lawrence, and Johannes Gampayo from Sabah Parks. we aim to establish a preliminary record of mammals in Mensalong Forest Reserve. That is our sole objective for this expedition. So in order to achieve that objective, we employ two methods, namely camera trapping and recce transect. For camera trapping, we deployed a total of 10 cameras in the study area with total accumulated 160 trap nights. We also established 4 transect with a total distance walk of 4.3 kilometers. Table 1 shows the detail of camera trap deployment. Since this is a rapid survey, we left the cameras operating for 2 to 3 months only. We hit the full coordinates because we want to discourage potential. And this is table number 2. It has details of camera transit. Sorry, it has detail of recce transect sampling. This method is to complement the camera trapping methods so as to increase the total discovered species. And this is the summary of mammals registered throughout the expedition. So far we have recorded a total of 24 species. Most of them belong to order Carnivora. And there were 5 species: leopard cat, bearded pig, red muntjac, long-tailed porcupine, thick-spine porcupine were recorded by both methods. And these are some of the photographic data. From A is red muntjac, followed by tufted ground squirrel, banded civet, leopard cat, pigtail macaque, and bearded pig. Okay, now enjoy the videos. I hope all the attendees and panelists can hear video. This is tufted ground squirrel. Okay. Sorry. Next is red muntjac. This image was taken by the same camera at the same spot. Next is common porcupine. Okay. In the morning session, there are a question for me. One of the attendees asked what kind of parameter we recorded in Mensalong Forest Reserve. This is one of the example. Pigtail. Okay. Next. Okay. The last animal species, it is a bird, great argus, but I feel this video is worth watching. Okay, we move to the threats and recommendation. Major threats to the mammal communities in Mensalong Forest Reserve are forest fire due to the open burning incident and existence of secondary forests. Second is encroachment and poaching. This is common in wool and accident. For recommendation, we are suggesting the enhancement of fire prevention program, frequent patrol, and continuous environmental awareness. And this will be second last slide. So Mensalong Forest, in conclusion, Mensalong Forest Reserve harbor many interesting animals. However, the preliminary list is far from complete. We need more sampling effort to reach the actual estimation of mammal diversity in the area. However, this study serves as a baseline information for policy makers and scientists. Thank you. I think that's all.
All right. Thank you very much, Faiz, for the entertaining presentation, especially your videos. Yeah, I find the Argus pheasant very interesting. It's a very nice video captured through camera trapping, as well as the turf squirrel. That's very interesting. It's the first time I see the Argus video also. So thanks for showing that to the to our audience today. Now,
You're welcome, Doctor.
Yeah, you're welcome. Once again, if you all have any questions for Faiz, do put your questions in the Q&A section, not the chat, yeah, but the Q&A section. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we have been progressing very smoothly. In fact, I think a bit advance of time, so perhaps we have a lot of time for Q&A afterwards. Anyway, for those of you, oh, you can't see my coffee here. It doesn't, yeah, it's now you see, now you don't. Okay.
We see it, Doctor.
You can, you know, it's not really that formal. You can bring along your coffee and so on. Yeah, have a sip of coffee if you feel a bit tired or sleepy, especially in the afternoon. But I believe that the session has been quite, yeah, Viviani, have been quite entertaining with a lot of a nice video, especially from Faiz. Now, moving on, ladies and gentlemen, we shall have the next presentation, also in wildlife. This subject has been very interesting and very controversial lately. It has been talked about by a lot of people, but it's not about these political frogs, but it's on the real frogs, yeah, the frogs of Mensalong Forest Reserve, and we have none other than our frogman, Pangeran Muhammad Salan, to tell you more about the frogs and the toads of this forest reserve. So over to you, Salan.
Yeah, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. You can hear my sound?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and very good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, thank you to our moderator, Dr. Atu Chung. So today I'd like to share about my study during the HoB scientific expedition, Mensalong Forest Reserve. The title is A Study on Endurance, which is Frog and Toads of Mensalong Forest Reserve, Sabah. So let's start with my justifications. So endurance, also called as Selentia, one of the major extant orders of the class Amphibia, it includes the frogs and toads. So tropical endurance are currently experiencing massive global decline as a result of habitat degradation, disease, and also the climate change. The island of Borneo contain high endurance diversity. According to the latest update on the book Frog of Borneo, is over 180 species. But the other side, Borneo also have the most threatened endurance species. In fact, Borneo have heavy levels of deforestation and habitat degradation. So these forest fragments within this disturbed area provide an important refuge, supporting high levels of amphibian diversity. Unfortunately, a lack of baseline diversity data undermines potential conservation effort in many fragmented forests. So, determining the annual diversity of a small forested area is paramount to ensuring the protection of the forest reserve, which may not supporting large mammalian population, but can serve as a valuable site of annual diversity in disturbed landscape. This study effort also in line with the missions of Sabah Forest Policy Trust 2 and 4, and also 18 Malaysian Forestry Conference Resolution 3 and 2. So this is my objective. First is to document the annual diversity, to provide up-to-date data information, and to expand the annual collection in FRC, and also to promote the selected anurans as a nature tourism. So let's move to the methodology. For my methodology, we use the visual encounter survey, which is these VES are used to document the presence of the anurans, and then it also can provide both quantitative and also the qualitative data on the anuran richness. And then there are three standard design for VES. There are opportunistic design, transit line, and also the quadrat design. So for my study, I was apply both design. They are opportunistic design and also transit line. For the transit line, usually apply on the along the small stream, small river, also the forest trail. For the opportunistic, also we call it randomized walk. Uh, apply for searching any hotspot locations for the frog, such as tree hole, branches, stump, and indications of the puddles, and so bush and leaf. So we use one-way methods to avoid any repeating number of the individuals. So a survey was also conducted between 7 p.m. until 11 p.m. to coincide the peak of the unrun activity period. So the number of anurans collected or observed will be noted during the survey. Some representative individuals were put inside transparent plastic and then fixed with 10% formalin and then 70% ethanol. So the individuals specimen will be deposited at FRC Sepilog. For the diversity and index, namely Shannon Wiener, Simpson, and Fisher Alpha, were calculated through the diversity analysis software. So the right pictures is one of the example of the specimen during the lab process. So let's move to my result. During the 4-night study, a total of 401 individuals consisting of 16 species belongs to 6 families were recorded from 4 sampling sites in Mensalong Forest Reserve. The anuran diversity is shown in the table 1, which is Shenwiner with 1.6, Simpson 3.1, and Fish Alpha with 3.34. So this is my pie chart, shows the percentage of the total individuals for each endurance family. The highest number of individuals is came from Ranidae family, which is with 6 species with 59.1%, and followed up by Buffonidae and Dicroglossidae. For the highlighted here is the most common species within Mensalong Forest Reserve was Meristogenes jerboa at the right pitches with 51% from the total number of individuals. It's about more than 200 individuals recorded along the Mensalong Forest Reserve. Yeah. This species, also we call it Western Torrent frog, as shown on the right slide. It was recorded as a vulnerable species, also endemic to Borneo, and then followed up by other 3 species was recorded as near threatened, namely Pilotus horsey, Ansonia spinolifer, and Oxidozyga baluensis. All right. So during the survey, we count about 12 Bornean endemic species that recorded from a total of 16 species that we found there. So as a preliminary idea, Mensalong Forest Reserve have high potential for underwater tourism because it has a high number of endemic underwater species, also good morphological attractiveness, and also behavioral enhancement of species. It was acknowledged that the method used was not strong enough. More survey can be made throughout the years, which is we can detect the elusive species and those with seasonal, activity patterns. So, so this is one of some photo that we take during the survey. So this is a Meristogenes jerboa that I mentioned just now. This is about 208 individuals, very lot along the small stream in Mensalong Forest Reserve. So the next is Pilotus horsey. This is one of the horse bush rock near Triton also. And also is this the giant river frog. This species is very common to Sabahan people. We call it sai because it's very delicious food for them. Also in Dusuns, we call it the pusas. So that is one of the treat maybe for this species population. This is among the largest frog with 13 cm in length for its family, the Croglosidae. Okay, next we move to this species. The right pictures is a Lingonexus finch rough gorgon frog. When you look closer, you can see the tadpole at the back, which is one of the process. Its mother brings the tadpole to the any source of water for the growing process. So this Ansonia spinolifalsoni threatened species, and the one is Metaprinella sundana, Bornean tree-hole frog. So don't get confused. Here usually it's the female, which is we usually found the species in the three-hole locations, but for this one we found in the bush because it is a females looking for a females calling for her. Yeah. So this one Limnatus culi and Odorana horsey, the one of the poisonous rock frog from the Aranidae family. And the last one is Hylarana picturata and the Prinodes juxtaspur. This species is highly milky toxic, second largest frog that I have found in with 23 cm in length. And then the first one, the largest I have found is Hampuan Forest Reserve with 26 cm. According to Robert Inger from Frog of Borneo, the largest Prinodes juxtaspur is about 21 cm. So this kind of good, interesting info. So as a conclusions, for this preliminary study, it was found that Mensalong Forest Reserve is home to a variety of underwater species and likely more had the sampling period been longer. The Bornean endemic underwater species recorded provide salient information to enhance the conservation of Mensalong Forest Reserve. Continuous monitoring, enforcement within the reserve are important to minimize the threat and advice issue. This will ensure the forest quality will improve in order to maintain the interesting biodiversity, including anurans. Before we ending these slides, I just want to say this: don't be a fish, be a frog. Swim in the water and jump when you hit ground. Thank you. That's all from me.
Right. Thank you very much, Salang, for showcasing to us the diversity of frogs and toads in Mensalong. Yeah, I think you all agree with me that the real frogs are more interesting than the political frogs, as showcased by Salang just now.
Yeah.
Don't be a fish, but be a frog. Yeah, but don't be a frog, be an insect. Next, we will listen to the Parkman. Right, moving on, ladies and gentlemen, from frogs, we will move on to insects. And I'm very pleased to have the Buckman, Razi Japil, to present to us the insect diversity of Mensalong Forest Reserve. And for your information, both the frogman and the Buckman are still single and available. So, ladies and gentlemen, please put our hands together for Razi. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Atta. Thank you, Dr. Atta. So I would like to share my screen first. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. So before that, I would like to thank Dr. Atta for giving the introduction. So without wasting the time, I would like to present about the insect diversity of Mensalong Forest Reserve. But before that, I would like to thank the co-authors, Momin Binti, John Lee Yukang, and of course, my super senior researcher, the voice, Dr. Atta Chong. So we skip to the methodology. So we've used two methods, and one of them is the light trapping that consists of a vertical white sheet that illuminated by a 250 watt mercury lithium and powered by a portable genset. And the light trapping initially started from 7 to 9 p.m. Then we will do the numeration from 8:30 to 9 p.m. It takes about 30 minutes. So then the collected data will be used to calculate the diversity indices such as Shannon-Wiener Simpson index by using the species diversity and richness software. So this is the light trapping looks like. And the second method is the sweep net and manual collection. So most of the flying insects were sampled using the sweep nets. However, we only took the interesting species that needed further investigation. We put them into a triangle paper and brought back to the lab for further investigation. For the non-flying insects, we collect them by using the forceps and we put them into a vial with 75% of ethanol solution. And most of the insects, especially for the common one, we just photograph them, while the interesting species, we kept them as the specimens brought back to the lab for further investigation. And sampling was conducted along the trails established for the expedition. And this is the entomologists holding the sweep nets ready for hunting. Sorry, Dr. Atta, kau yang ambil gambar nih. So we go to the results. So this is the result for insect diversity through the light trapping. So as you can see, the mean of species was 68. The individuals was 77. The Shannon index was 4.16. And the Simpson index was 264.34. So as you can see in side A, it shows the lowest reading in Simpson index because there was a dominant species, which was the wild honeybees, Apis dorsata. So this is the wild honeybee, the Apis dorsata. As you can see, there's a lot of them were attracted to the light trap. So it is also reflected in the species rank abundance curves. So as you can see, this is site A. The site A shows a staggered slope when compared to sites B and site C. This is because there was a high number of dominant species, which was the wild honeybees. But it has the longest tails when compared to sites B and C. This is because it has the most number of species compared to the other two. So we also make a comparison in terms of insect diversity with other forest reserves. So this is Mensalong. As you can see, the Mensalong is considered moderately high when compared with other forest reserves. So what did we find? A total of 9 Bornean endemics recorded, 5 moths, all of them are tiger moths, 2 beetles, and 2 damselflies. So in total, there are 35 moth species, 11 butterfly species, 12 beetle species, 15 dragonfly species, and 11 other insect species were recorded there. And we also recorded one of the largest moths in the world, the purplish atlas moth. So this is the purplish atlas moth. Unfortunately, the wings are broken. Sorry, the wings are broken. So actually, the edge of the wings is resembles as a snake head to frighten away the predator. So the next is Bornean endemic tiger beetle, Calomera crespigni. So this species can be commonly found on exposed riverine sediments, and it can be easily to recognize by the T pattern on the back of its abdomen. So this is endemic to Borneo. So this is a pair of three-horned rhinoceros beetles, Calcosoma molenkampi, or locally known as apa tu? Kapiting. So this is the tiger or Arabic moth, Aedes bifida, also endemic to Borneo. Etalida borniana, also endemic to Borneo. Amata macroflaviva, also endemic to Borneo. And Igua tessellata, also endemic to Borneo. So all of these moths were attracted to the light trap. So this is one of the interesting moths that were recorded there. The deaths had a hawk moth, Echorantia lachesis. So this species was named after that because it has a skull markings on the thorax. So we also recorded two Bornean endemic damselfly, and one of them is the Heliocypha biseriata, and the other one is Colixia nimoricola. So this is the wasp-like manted fly. So this species is a mimic to the night wasp, Provespa anomala. So this is one of the largest click beetle that has been recorded there, the Cryptalaus near to Superbus. So this species can do acrobatic jump when disturbed. And this is the blister beetle. As you can see, it has a striking color, but it contains chemicals that can give you a painful blister. And this is the leaf-like mantis. And this is the nymph of Zana nobilis, the plant hopper. And this is the exploding ants, Colobapsis saundersii. This ant has a unique defense mechanism because I also call them as the kamikaze ants, because when they are feel threatened, they will tearing their body apart to protect the rest of the colony. So they will secrete a yellowish fluid that contains toxic. So we will go to the discussion part. The recorded data, of course, the recorded data will provide significant information for future research and to enhance the conservation of Mensalong Forest Reserve, especially in terms of FMP, forest management plans. And they are also important in the food chain because they are one of the food source for various other animals, especially for the insectivorous such as birds and other wildlife. So they are also serve as bioindicators because they can be used to monitor the status of the environment, and there are some of the insects group in this study can be used as bioindicators. And a continuous monitoring and enforcement at strategic location within the reserve are important to minimize the threats and adverse issues such as poaching. The next point is monitoring the forest reserve together with relevant agencies or local universities. So I took an example from this expedition because Sabah Forestry Department invited relevant agencies such as UMS, Sabah Parks, WWF, and others. So all the information can be gathered and can be used for a better forest management plan in the future, and the public awareness to the local people. So these people must know, they should know the intrinsic values inside the forest reserve, such as insect diversity, what is the species that recorded there, or how many insect diversity has been recorded there. So they must know why they have to keep this forest reserve and why they have to protect it from the encroachment. So early education since primary school. This is more to environmental education by using a short video or animation on the importance of forests, insects, and so on. So strike the iron while it's hot, or in Malay, melentur buluh biarlah dari rebungnya. So in conclusion, Insect diversity from this study can contribute significantly to the formulation of the forest management plan of Mensalong Forest Reserve, especially the endemic species recorded and also for others of conservation interest. So a better decision by today will give the best of tomorrow. So that's all from me. Thank you for your kind attention.
Right. Thank you very much, Razi, for entertaining us with all the uh, results as well as photos of various insect species found in the Mensalong Forest Reserve. Well, as mentioned by Razi just now, all this information together with all the other presentations, including those chaired by Dr. Ruben Nellis this morning, we use all this info for the formulation of forest management plan. Well, in this case, it is conservation area management plan of the forest reserves, and these are all done under the HoB initiative. Okay? So it's all towards sustainable forest management. Now, ladies and gentlemen, next from wildlife, we move on to Homo sapiens. Something to do with humans and the environment. People always say living in harmony with nature. Yeah. The next talk will focus on the local community's dependence to the forest resources, and this survey was carried out by none other than Miss Elni Beatrice John Lee, which does not need any introduction. I believe that all of you have known her already. Beatrice, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Dr. So give me some time to share my screen.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you, Dr. Atte, and hello and good evening, everyone. So as mentioned earlier, the title of my study is Local Communities' Dependence on Forest Resources in Selected Villages Nearby Mensalong Forest Reserve. And my co-author include Ms. Hasniat from UMS, Mr. Jedi, Ms. Nurul, Mr. Ian, Mr. Jafrin, and Mr. Jerry from FRC. So the objective of my study is first to assess the demographic and socio-economic characteristics of the local community, and second is to determine the local community's dependence on forest resources. So I've chosen 3 sites to be my study area. The first kampung is Kampung Turuntungan, established in 1980s. Second kampung is Kampung Monggis, established in 1990s. And third kampung is Kampung established in 1970s. So majority of the community are from Dusun ethnicity. So this is the location of the kampung. All the kampungs were chosen because they are the nearest to the Mensalong Forest Reserve. So a little bit of introduction on all the 3 kampungs. Their source of water is a gravity pipe system from Mensalong Forest Reserve, from the Park Reserve, Sungai Tandahawan, and also Sungai Kikulat. And Kampung Turuntungan and Monggis both have electricity, but some of the villages in Surun-Surun have no electricity and still use the traditional oil lamp. And for land use, they have agriculture land, forest reserve, park reserve, fruit orchard, rubber plantation under LIGS, oil palm plantation, SFMLA area, Taga River, and also cemeteries in the forest reserve. So the basic facility, the nearest primary school is in Kampung Melangkap. Nearest secondary school is in Kota Marudu town, and they have no clinic. So villages are easily accessible, and their livelihood activities include harvesting fruit trees and agricultural crops such as durian, cempedak, tarap, and many more. They harvest rubber, they do paddy cultivation, they do oil palm plantation, they make handicraft made out of bamboo, they do fishing using bubu, which is traditional fish trap made from rattan, and they also collect forest resources such as medicinal herbs and firewood and many more. So this timeline is just to show you a chronology of events that had happened in all three kampungs in the past few years. In 1976, they still use water from the river. In 1979, school starts to emerge. In 1986, logging began, logging companies entered, and the river became polluted, reduced amount of fish, and there are signs of soil erosion. In year 2000, SFMLA licensee entered. In 2007, establishment of gravity water pipe system, and in 2012, oil pump plantation began. And in 2015, road was constructed, and in 2016, Mensalong Forest Reserve was gazetted. So now I move on to my methodology. I use three types of methodology to conduct this study. The first method is focus group discussion, which is a facilitated group discussion. So the community is divided into two groups, which is male and female group. This is to collect general information on the village, such as the history of the village, the livelihood activities, and many more. And we also do community mapping. And the second method is household survey. This is to collect info on households' livelihood, and the total number of respondents is 40. We use 100% convenient household sampling, and this is conducted using a questionnaire which consists of 40 questions. And the third method is key informant interview. This is collected by interviewing experts to gain in-depth and technical info using a semi-structured interview. And for this study, we interviewed the Ketua Kampung, DFO, and also the ADO of Kota Marudu. So the characteristic of the sample household in terms of gender, 92% of the respondents are male and 8% are female. And in terms of age group, majority are aged 30 years old to 40 years old with 34%. And in terms of marital status, majority are married with 95%, single 3%, and widowed 2%. So most of the respondents are adults aged 30 years above, and most of their children or youth are working outside of the village in town or big cities. So according to Garake 2017, young villages are less dependent on forest resources due to their tendency to venture into cities for better income opportunities. And older adults have reduced chance of collecting forest resources. And in terms of education, 53% finishes primary school, 24% do not have formal education, and 23% finishes secondary. So mostly completed primary school but didn't continue to secondary school due to distance, and the only secondary school available is at Kota Marudu town. So according to SO, level of education influence dependency on forest resources. The higher the level of education, they will have better and broader opportunities outside compared to those with no formal education, and will have less dependency on forest resources. And this is also strengthened by a statement from Adhikari. In terms of household size, majority have 6 to 9 members. So larger household size will have to feed more members and likely gather more forest products for survival. And in terms of origin, 65% come from the village, others migrated from other places, and this is due to marriage. In terms of occupation, majority with 76% are farmers, followed by government servant 13%, and followed by 11%. The community planted fruit trees and many more, and some also do stingless bee farming. So the community planted in the village area and also in state land. So according to Liu, households that have more agricultural land are less dependent on forest resources because they can sustain their livelihood through agriculture. In terms of income range, majority have income less than 500 ringgit. So exploitation of forest resources can be avoided if there is higher income and productivity derived from agriculture. And this is a statement from Adam and El Taib 2014. And in terms of status of land, we're mostly land application, and they are planting in state land area and native land. So either under locals' control or government's control, difference in land ownership may determine the extent of the local community's control to the forest management. And the types of forest resources collected by the respondents, majority fishing, second followed by medicinal herbs, and third is vegetable. And then the respondent mentioned that they enter the forest once every 2 weeks with 84%, followed by 11% 1 to 3 times a week, and last but not least 5% not entering the forest anymore. So the committee mentioned that after the forest was gazetted into forest reserve, they did not enter the forest as much as they used to anymore. So income from sale of forest resources, selling forest resources 22%, a very small amount, and 78% is not selling forest resources. So mostly male enter the forest compared to female. So they usually use forest resources for subsistence use. They sell agriculture crops, which brings more income. So 58% still collecting forest resources, so mostly for daily subsistence needs. And those that are not collecting had shifted to other means of livelihood, such as buying food from local market and using stuff to cook. So they are not entirely dependent on forest resources, but mentioned that it is still very important livelihood. So in conclusion, more job opportunities should be created by surrounding stakeholders to further improve the community's livelihood and socioeconomic conditions to reduce the community's level of dependency on forest resources in the nearby forest area. And this could help in transforming the situation into a sustainable resource use. An awareness program or environmental awareness program on conservation of forest resources should also be intensified, and due to the limitations in the study, such as time constraint and lack of manpower, there are missing information that can be collected to further strengthen the study. However, it can serve as a preliminary finding for other potential research. So list of references, and these are the people that I would like to thank. With that, I thank you. Thank you. Over to you, Dr. Atta.
Right. Thank you very much, Beatrice, for the concise but clear presentation on what surveys that you have done on the local communities in Mensalong Forest Reserve.
Thank you,
So
Dr. Atta.
once again, participants, if you have any questions or comments that you want to put forward to that beautiful lady, you may put your questions in the Q&A, and some of these questions will be answered live. Or if not, Beatrice would answer them, type it in, and I may read it aloud later on towards the end of this session. Thanks, Beatrice. Yeah. Moving on, ladies and gentlemen, we shall have our last presentation for today. And this one will focus on potential tourism attractions. And we are very pleased to have Mr. Jerry K. Lajanga, also from the Sabah Forestry Department, to share with us what he has, what are the findings from the expedition on the potential tourism attractions in Mensalong. So without further ado, Jerry, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Atta, for the kind introduction. Let me share my screen first. Okay, my presentation title is Potential Tourism Attraction in Mensalong Forest Reserve, Kota Marudu, Sabah. Okay, the tourism team member, me, myself, Jeffrey Lapungan, my boss, and Beatrice, and Nurul Sabaria. Okay, justification of my study. With the increase of tourists to Sabah, new products have to be introduced as alternatives to readily available tourism product. Objectives. The aim of this study was to investigate attraction that can be done, develop into tourism product in Mensalong Forest Reserve, then to identify the advantages and disadvantages of current situation and various elements related to nature tourism in this area. Meanwhile, my methodology, the natural, aesthetic, and cultural values, interesting and significant flora, fauna, landscape were observed and recorded. Interviews carried out to the relevant people to get the ideas and opinion on tourism in Mensalong Forest Reserve. Okay, related to the justification just now, this slide shows the number of tourists that visiting Sabah from the year 2002 to 2019. Overall, it shows increasing trend. Okay, to get general information on potential tourism attraction in Mensalong Forest Reserve, we interview relevant people. In this picture, we are interviewing Kota Marudu Assistant District Forestry Officer, Madam Asia. This is also the same. To get the information on interesting potential tourism attraction in Mensalong Forest Reserve, we interview the village community that living nearby to Mensalong Forest Reserve. And we also ask them if they can guide us to the potential tourism attraction location. Okay, as shown in the slide, group photo with the community from Turuntungan village. Okay, then this is to give you some ideas on how the field work has been carried out to find the interesting attraction in Mensalong Forest Reserve. In this slide, me with my boss, Mr. Jeffrey Lapongan, was on the way to check a waterfall. This is the waterfall that we survey, but due to insufficient rainfall, the waterfall get less water flowing. Okay, this is an example of a big tree that can be a tourism attraction in Mensalong Forest Reserve. This just was presented by Mr. Faiz just now. Some of the fauna that can be found in Mensalong Forest Reserve can be a tourism attraction too. This photo credited to Forest Research Center Wildlife Research Unit. Okay, then on birdings, some of the interesting birds that can found in Mensalong Forest Reserve that can be tourism attraction. And this beautiful bird pictures I get it from Mr. Vivian Rudolph. He is a member of the birding team. Next, the tourism potential tourism attraction is the panoramic view that can be seen from Mensalong Forest Reserve. For example, in this slide, beautiful and mesmerizing view of Mount Tamboyukon, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, then this is the handmade handicrafts by the village community. It also can be added value to the tourism attraction for this area. And we also had been asking to the villagers on the cultural activity, but there is no special cultural events or traditional custom that has been practiced by the community. Okay, this is outside of the Mensalong Forest Reserve, but nearby to the Forest Reserve. For tourism added value, there is some beautiful shallow river with rockbed river and clear water along the stream flowing nearby Mensalong Forest Reserve. This is a suitable place for tourists to rest and picnicking. A very beautiful river. Okay, then this is the summary of the potential attraction that can be found in Mensalong Forest Reserve, such as flora, fauna, forest area, nature trail, river, waterfall, and panoramic view. and also some recreation activity that can be done in Mensalong Forest Reserve, such as jungle trekking, night walk, bird watching, picnicking, camping, photography, and sightseeing. And also, do not forget additional potential tourism attraction, other interesting findings by the other researcher in their respective field, such as insect diversity studies and freshwater fish diversity studies. And then this is some of the short information of the strength and weaknesses of Mensalong Forest Reserve tourism development, such as forest reserve. Mensalong Forest Reserve is a forest reserve, so it's free from logging and plantation operation. Then easy accessibility using the main road of Ranau Kota Murudu or vice versa. Research activity can be an added value for tourism. Mensalong Forest Reserve also a wildlife habitat and also the presence of variety species of birds. For weaknesses, Mensalong Forest Reserve located at the rural area, 4 to 5 hours driving time from Kota Kinabalu. No tourism-oriented facilities yet. Limited publicity for this area, can be encroached from many directions, and limited activities can be done during rainy season in Mensalong Forest Reserve. Okay, and this is some of the short information of the opportunities and threat for Mensalong Forest Reserve tourism development, such as Mensalong Forest Reserve can be a potential new ecotourism location in Kota Marudu, then potential wilderness camp, potential birding spot, environmental education site, and forest recreation area. Meanwhile, the threat is human and wildlife conflict, disease such as malaria, forest encroachment, forest fire, and river pollution. Okay, for the conclusion of our study, with the attraction that can be found here, Mensalong Forest Reserve has the potential to be developed as a new tourism destination in Kota Marudu, Sabah. So this is my acknowledgement. And then thank you for your attention. That's all, Doctor. Back to you.
Okay, thank you very much, Jerry, for sharing with us about the tourism potential. Yes, we know that a lot of these areas in Mensalong still remain potential. A lot of things, infrastructure, and a lot of other things would have to be in place first before good nature tourism can be implemented. And for your information, for those who are climbing Mount Tambuyokon, actually they will have to go to the Monggis station under Sabah Parks, which is adjacent to the Mensalong Forest Reserve. So that gives you a bit of information about potential tourism also in Mensalong Forest Reserve. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of the presentation, and we shall now have the Q&A. And at this juncture, I would like to request all the speakers to turn on their webcam, so that it will be more interactive. And if there are questions, I understand that there are a lot of questions, but some have been answered, and I will read them aloud. You may need to answer some of them live, I may ask for comments and so on. So I would request those who have presented to turn on their webcam. So as done this morning, like what Dr. Ruben Nelis has, the way he conducted the Q&A, I will go through the questions that have been answered first, or I could see that there are 21 answered questions, and there are 11 open questions, which I believe that the speakers will answer this live. Oh, so that's very interesting. It's a very lively session then. Okay, we have about 25 minutes for this, yeah? So I will go through very briefly all the questions that has been answered. The first one, oh, okay. The first one by Roslina Ragai, which I have already answered before the starting of this session on bird watching. Yeah, so we'll skip that. The second question is from Adi Shabrani from WWF. How stable was the streams? Do they have dry period or any environmental parameter recorded? Shafika has already answered this. Yeah, some parts of the streams are small and prone. They will dry up during, dry period. Unfortunately, only temperature of the water was recorded, and we are hoping to do more detailed survey within the reserve. Okay. All right, we have a question from Sylvia Assisto of Sabah Wildlife Department. Good to have you here, Sylvia. She has asked a question on any signs of orangutan or orangutan nests or gibbons, right? Vice has already answered this. We did not observe any signs of orangutan nests and gibbons in the study site. So maybe we have to do longer period of observation, or maybe there is none there, yeah? Okay, Silver's also asked what signs of poaching have been observed, types of traps and so on. Right, Vice has answered that. The team has found bullet cartridge in the reserve. No snares were encountered. And the next question from Badri Stewart for Vice. Do you find orangutan in the area adjacent to Kinabalu Park? Or the same question from Sylvia. We hope to spot at least the nest, but unfortunately no signs of that species in that area. That's according to Vice. And after that, we have the question from Nurain Aceh. Poaching is more prone on what species? Yellow manja, Argus. I see leopard cat as well. Is leopard cat also being hunted there? Any proof of this species being hunted? Okay, I believe that Vice has answered this. Yeah, I'll just read it aloud. We are not sure which species is being hunted. Further study is needed to understand the situation, but we did found bullet cartridge in during the field work. Okay. The next question comes from Jupri Muhammad Bani for Shafika. Would you give suggestion for Anguilla bonensis to be protected under local law since it is vulnerable under IUCN Red List? And what is the threat to this species in Sabah that you think will make it vulnerable? We are still looking into this matter. The threats of this species, including overfishing, where poison and hooks are used, and also anthropogenic modification of river morphology. Right. Moving on, we have we have an anonymous attendee who asks Shafika, is there any specific fish species that indicate water quality, or does it base on how many fish species can be found? And Shafika mentioned that she's not really sure, but generally species like tow, yeah, can be found in clear water rivers, not necessarily because some of the fish species can survive in poor water condition or even survive out of the water. And John Pereira, Dr. John Pereira has a question for Vice. about road accidents as one of the threats faced by the fauna in Mensalong. What are the animals involved? How serious? And what are the mitigation taken to overcome this? Faiz mentioned that local communities informed that wildlife road accident is rare in this area. However, in other places in Sabah, animal carcasses along the roads adjacent to the forest areas are quite common. It depends on the total road users, to see how severe it is. We are suggesting additional warning signages or wildlife crossing, but the construction of viaduct need to be carefully planned if this is to be implemented. Azad, some comments from Azad. He mentioned that road accident is one of the threats for wildlife in Mensalong. He would like to know if there's any recommendation of mitigation measure on how to reduce this in this area. Let me see what Faiz has mentioned. Actually, it's the same answer given to Dr. John Pereira. So another anonymous question: if there are any road, whether there's any road accident reported, any recommendations, and so on. So again, this is the same answer given by Faiz. Right, Robert Mijo asked whether there is any natural salt lakes found during the expedition. Faiz answered that he has not received any reports on natural salt lakes in the reserve. Moving on, we have question from Silva Assisto about presence of sun bear. In your opinion, are the poaching activities done by local communities or outsiders? Right. Faiz mentioned that he's not sure, need to gather more data on this. Thank you. A question for Salan by Adi. Any pond habitat in the forest reserve may be pig wallow? According to Salan, there were a few pig wallows, not pond, species like Hylarana megalonessa was found over there. And a question from Rainer Billy of Sabah Forestry Department. He asked whether there's any presence of Bornean gibbon. Well, I think Faiz has answered this. Orangutan and gibbon were our target species for this rapid survey. However, we did not notice the gibbon's core. Perhaps we need more sampling efforts to find this primate. Right, another question for Shafika here from Roslina Ragai. How effective is your fish traps? The one that looks like bamboo boo-boo with your bait. Just curious which species is attracted to the oil palm bait. And Shafika responded that it is very effective depending on the sites that prefer deeper stream or pond. Most of cyprinids or herbivores such as Barbodes, Tor, Nematobramis, or even the carnivores, Anguilla, will trap inside as they were hunting for fish inside the boo-boo. And Rainer Billy again asked Faiz whether the team does any night drive or night walk to observe nocturnal species. And Faiz responded that yes, but only a few nights. We often use the same transect. And another question, anonymous for Salan. Any notable differences in physical appearance between male and female vanurans? I guess this is a very common, is a very general question. In most frogs, according to Salan, female tend to be larger than the male. This is the standard and can be a good method to for gender identification for some species, the female frog is sometimes darker in color than the male.
Yes, Dr. Atte,
Yeah.
sorry to interrupt you, but
Yes.
we have some unanswered question in the open section. So some of the speakers would like to answer them live. Maybe
Okay.
if you can, yeah.
Yes. All right. I guess the attendees also can look at these questions, the answers also. Yeah. Am I right? Those that have
Yes,
been
Doctor.
answered? Okay. So we'll move to the open questions. Yes. Right. Okay. Sorry, I've spent about 10 minutes reading aloud all those answer. Okay. This one, Shafika would answer this question live from Muhammad Jadi Sidin. Yeah, how many Osphonemus species or chana? Shafika, over to you.
Okay, hi, thanks. Thanks for the question. Actually, we didn't encounter Osphonemus species or ikan kaloi or chana, which is harwan, during the survey. We didn't encounter any. But as far as I know, Osphonemus laticlavius or red giant tail gurami, ikan kaloi, only found in the east side of Sabah, like Sandakan, Ladatu, and Tawau. So far, I have not recorded any Osphonemus in the western part. Yes, that's all from me.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks, Shafika. Any more to add?
Yes, that's all from me, Doctor.
Okay. All right. Yeah. That was the answer to your question, Muhammad Jadi. The next question is from Badri Sued, also for Shafika. How is human activity outside of Mensalong Forest Reserve affect the fish population in the reserve?
So my answer is any form of logging or land use change had a clear and negative impact on fish communities. Yeah, that's all.
Okay, very straightforward. Yes, it does. And of course, those who are looking at social studies would also have to look into this. Yeah. Anyway, we move on to the next question for Salan from an anonymous attendee. Any threats for the frogs? Salan, over to you.
Yep. The question is any threats for the frog. The habitat loss is the major factor that affecting the biggest threat for the frog. For the example is some species only found in the rocky stream with the clear flow of water. So if this habitat characteristic is lost, so it's clearly affecting the populations of species. And also maybe the another threats is something like domestic and also international threat, something like amphibians can be used as the exotic foods, medicine and so on. And also the climate change, as we know, frogs is permeable skins, so it's the temperatures, body temperatures is depending on the changes of the in the on the environments. So if the frogs can what we call it apa tuh orang bilang faced with the environment, so it will affect the survival rates of the frogs. That hopefully answer your question.
Okay. Yeah. We have another question, but it's for Miss Salan. I think that's referred to you also, yeah, Salan? From Amiru. If you found any frog that are rare and not in the survey in a transect during the expedition?
I think just endemic. Yeah.
Yeah. How many
rare
endemic?
species?
Yeah.
Yes.
You mentioned 12, is it?
12.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So you consider all the endemics are rare and not locally common?
It's a little bit common, something like that. But for the question is,
there are some that
it's
are
a,
common, yeah. Okay.
yeah. But for the question is something like we are not study on the comparisons between the transit line, so it's not have any problems. We just can take the number of species, something like that, and include in our endurance richness data because we are not comparing between the transit line.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Thanks, Salan. Okay. Moving on, we have a question for Razi on insects. Yeah, I believe from Wong. I would like to know those insect species recorded indicated that the forest is low in pollution and disturbance. Razi, would you like to answer that question? Are you there, Razi?
Hello, can you hear me? Hello? Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Oh,
We
okay,
can hear
sorry,
you.
sorry. Okay, so yeah, hello Wong. Yeah, I would like to answer the question, doctor. Yeah, hello Wong. So yeah, there are some of the insects groups that can be used for as a bioindicators in this study, such as the dragonflies and damselflies. They are one of the bioindicators that indicate the water quality. So in this study, we have recorded 15 dragonflies, and moreover, we have recorded 2 endemic Bornean endemic dragonflies. So I think that will answer the question. That's all from me.
All right. Yeah. Thanks, Razi. Now we have a question from Rosilla Antoni of Sabah Forestry Department for Salan, Pangeran Salan. Anuran Tourism. Would you like to handle that question, Salan?
Yeah, thank you for Rosila for the questions. There is a lot of potentials, just I mentioned just now, in terms of endemism, rarity, reliabilities, and also the frogs behavior, and also attractive in terms of morphological appearance of its frog itself. So it's kind of potentials to brings our locals to become Anuran's lover, something like that. And then for what the question is, how can we bring locals to conserve, something like that, conservations in Anuran's tourism. So this is an idea. First, maybe we can make something like Anuran's park, also Anuran's aquariums to provide and habitats of frogs. So there we can something like the education center of frogs, habitats, and from here it's a good center for tourism, for local to study what is actually Anurans. And then the second one is maybe this involve education and awareness program, something like that. Hopefully answer that question. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you can have Anuran watching. Yeah, we have bird watching, we have butterfly watching, we have dragonfly watching. Maybe we have frog watching. Yeah, they have frog race in Sarawak. You know, they have been doing that for a couple of years already. So perhaps in future, this can be done for Sabah too. Okay, moving on. Next, we have a question from Nurang Aceh. The area proposed should not be inside the forest reserve, but near to the village.
Yes, Dr. Atta, there's actually a question before that statement. So if I may just inform the question and then answer it because I think it was meant for me.
Okay, great. Yeah,
Okay,
go ahead.
so the question from Ms. Nurain is there any possibility of a portion of the area can turn into animal kampung license area? And if the area has an abundance resource for wild boar and deer, this area will be regulated by the villages. So the area proposed should not be inside of FR, but near to the village. So thank you, Ms. Nurain, for the question. I think your idea is a good idea. It can help improve. livelihood and food security. However, some of the species mentioned, if I'm not mistaken, is under protected species. And in order to execute this idea, it is best if we also ask for insights from the Sabah Wildlife Department, from the Land and Survey Department, and maybe the district officer himself, because this is actually out of the Sabah Forestry Department's jurisdiction, as it is outside of the forest reserve. So I hope I answered that question. Thank you. Over to you, Doctor.
Yeah, thanks, Beatrice. That's brief and concise answer. Thank you very much. And we have a question for Salan, whether you find some frogs. This has been answered, I think. A question for Beatrice. Are the communities aware of the protected wildlife or endemic plants or herbs? Yes, over to you again, Beatrice.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Anonymous, for the question. So the communities are aware of the rules and regulations with regards to the forest reserve, which include we cannot enter the forest reserve, but they are not really aware of the list of protected wildlife or list of endemic plants or herbs. So my suggestion would be that it would help if in the upcoming awareness program, we should also include this part so that the community is much more aware of this. So thank you.
Yep. All right. Thanks, Beatrice. Another question for you from Alexandra Marcos of Sabah Biodiversity Center. What were the community's thoughts about the forest reserve? A limitation, or can they gain something out of it, monetary or not? So what's your opinion on this, Beatrice?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, LS, for the question, my good friend LS. So they are currently using forest resources mostly for subsistence use, but they did mention that they are very much interested into tourism and also selling handicrafts made out of rattan and made out of bamboo. But of course, the limitation would be that they cannot enter the forest and they cannot overexploit the forest resource. So that is the limitation. So I hope that answered the question. Thank you, Dr. Over to you.
Okay, thanks, Patrice. Next question is for Razi. It's from Mohammad Iftar Joni. All right, he was an intern in FRC previously. Iftar would like to know, is it common to have bees like apis, yeah, that are attracted to the light trap at night? And how many apis species recorded so far? Razi?
Yes, thank you. Hi, hello, Assalamualaikum, Muhammad Iftar. So, yeah, it is common to have any bees attracted to the light trap. Yeah, I think there's a nest nearby to our light trap, and we have recorded the highest number of Apis dorsata for 3 nights. And so far, we just recorded the wild honeybee, the Apis dorsata. I think it's answered the question.
Okay, thanks. Yeah. I believe, if I remember correctly, we also recorded Apis rana. Yeah, I think at least 2 species of Apis. There are 5
Yeah, you are right.
Yeah. Okay. Next, a question from Rosilla Anthony. Is there a conservation information system to compile all this info? Is Ruben Nilles there? Ruben, would you like to answer this question?
Hello.
Oh yeah, Ruben is there. I think you are the best person to answer this question then.
Yes, all this information and data are very crucial for the conservation area information system. And so far, for the last 13 years, all the HoB data that we collected from forests, especially in the protected area, will be used for the conservation area information system. And it's actually in the pipeline, and I think the soft preview will be in January 2021. Just wait, just around the corner. Thank you.
All right, there you go, Rosilla. That's our Tekong HoB for FRC. He's our leader. Right, moving on, the next question is from Charlene Billy for Beatrice. In your presentation, it is stated that some of the community is still dependent on forest reserve. Since the reserve has been gazetted as Protection Forest Reserve Class 1 in 2016. Are the communities still allowed to go into the forest and take forest produce? Over to you, Beatrice.
Thank you, Dr. Atta. So thank you, Charlene, for the question as well. So by right, the community is not allowed to enter the forest as it is a class 1 forest reserve. But according to the local district forestry office of Kota Marudu, they allow the villagers to collect the forest produce, but only for subsistence use, only for their daily livelihood activities and not for sale on and not for income. So I hope that answers your question. Thank you.
Right. Thanks, Beatrice, for the answer. Now, the next one is from Dr. Joan Pereira. It's not a question, but comment for Faiz. Well done. Keep up the good work. Yeah, Faiz. Okay. Next question is from an anonymous. What is the current threats to flora and fauna of Mensalong Forest Reserve? Any Tongkat Ali vegetation found in Mensalong? This is supposed to be answered by the plant people. Anyone in the group would like to take on this question?
Hello, Dr. Atta.
Okay.
I'm keen to answer the question.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so as I mentioned before, the threats for mammals and forest ecosystem in Mensalong Forest Reserve include forest fire, road accident, encroachment, and that's all. About the what the question? Any Tongkat Ali vegetation found in Mensalong? That one I'm not sure.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, maybe we don't want to reveal that. Otherwise, people will go in and cabut all the Tongkat Ali. Yeah. Sometimes certain info is confidential, but maybe if you liaise with us officially, then maybe Faiz will let you know. Right. Moving on to an anonymous also. If Mensalong open for tourism, do you think that there will be a high chance for poachers to come in? And of course, this question is for Jerry. Jerry, over to you. Can you unmute your mic? Buka mic dulu. Yeah.
Okay. Is the question, if Mensalong open for tourism, do you think there will be a high chance of poachers to come in?
Yeah.
From my opinion, from my opinion, if open or not open, the poachers will try to get in. Whatever is been done there, if it develop for tourism or any others development, the poachers is always take the chances to poach in the forest reserve.
Yeah. So which means that monitoring and enforcement is very important. Yeah, when you have any of these activities. So thanks, Jerry. Now we have two more questions. It's about time. Yeah, from Asha Rasiman for Beatrice and Jerry. Is there any potential collaboration between communities surrounding Mensalong and Forestry Department for ecotourism to create job opportunities? Either Jerry or Beatrice would want to tackle this question.
Maybe Jerry. Over to you, Jerry.
Okay, Jerry.
I have to give the straight answer. The answer is yes. Of course, if develop ecotourism site, then it will create job for the local people. Yeah.
All right. Yes. Okay. Yeah. So we look at the positive side. That's very good, Jerry. Now our last question. Yeah. Last question in my list. If there are any other questions, then I wouldn't know. Oh, is that the last question? Oh, this two questions. Yeah. Anonymous. For Jerry, do you think it is a waste of resources to develop Mensalong as a tourism site? Can you briefly answer that?
Depends to the situation. If they if they have enough attraction for the tourists to go to Mensalong, then it's not a waste of resource. Maybe it will bring up the economy for the local people at the Mensalong area.
Yes, I think we have to look at this positively, and I believe in sustainable and responsible nature tourism. As long as it is developed sustainably, that benefits the people there. I think the potential is good. Okay, moving on, our last question. Is there any signs of sun bear, the dung or the claw scratch print? This is from Siti Sarayati. Question for Faiz.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Thank you, Siti Sarayati Abdul Mawar. Initially, our team from FRC did not spot any claw marks of sun bear, but when we merged our data with our brothers from Sabah Park, they actually found the marks of sun bear. So the answer is yes, we found the claw marks in the forest reserve.
All right.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thanks. Yeah, that means you can find sun bear in that area.
Yes,
all right.
exactly.
Okay. Yes, that was the last question, and yeah, it was really a lively session of Q&A with 31 questions that has been answered and 15 that has been answered live. I must apologize that I spent too much time on reading aloud those answers just now. I thought it was not really that many, but there were a lot. Yeah. I'm pleased that we have come to the end, overshoot by 7 minutes. I hope it's okay for my boss. I think my boss is waiting there to say a few words. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your active participation in this webinar. And I can see that my boss is ready to say a few words to all those who have participated in this webinar. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to kindly invite the Deputy Chief Conservator of Forests for R&D, Dr. Robert C. Ong, also known as Tom Cruise, to say a few words as the closing remarks for this HoB Mensalong webinar. So over to you, Dr. Robert Ong.
Right, thank you, Arthur, for that lively facilitation. Can you hear me all well?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, okay, good. So I've been asked to make some concluding remarks here. I'm going to be brief, but I must confess that today I've been following 3 very interesting events. Apart from this webinar, there's also an ongoing industrial forest plantation seminar that's hosted by the Sarawak Forestry Department, and that's ongoing. Apart from that, there's the US presidential elections that's unfolding, the results right now. So that's another very interesting event. So it's been a very eventful but distracting day. So we've had 13 papers today presented largely by the Forest Research Center, and I think 2 from UMS. So thank you very much to the speakers for your participation. I think apart from the Mensalong expedition, we've had 2 or 3 other expeditions since that expedition under the Harborneo program. In fact, this year we've had 2, I think, Hampuan and Menggilan Forest Reserves. So perhaps if there's interest, we may also share our information and experiences from this Zoom platform. I believe we've got another webinar that's coming up towards the end of November. Is that correct, Arthur?
Yes, that's true.
Yeah, and so tune in, and I think we're going to make an announcement soon and get yourself registered. I don't think I have much more to say, except I'd like to thank again all the speakers and also those who attended today. All in all, I think there were about 100 of us.
132 attended.
Wow, okay.
Yeah,
very good.
out of 175 registered, I think.
Right. Okay, so over to you, I guess, Arthur. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Robert Ong, for that few words of encouragement to all those who have presented and all the participants. I could see that Indra is there. Yeah, Indra is the senior assistant chief conservator. He is also the chief information officer for the Sabah Forestry Department. Would you like to say a few words?
Okay, thank you, Dr. Atta. Assalamualaikum and good evening all. First of all, I would like to congratulate to all the panelists and also speakers for sharing the information, very good information. And also to all participants, attendees, thank you for your good support and willing to listen our information, experience sharing. And I hope this will add value to your what I call knowledge. And as mentioned by Dr. Robert, we would like to organize the 5th webinar by the end of this November. I do hope that all the participants stay tuned with us. And once again, stay safe. Thank you, Dr. Atta. Back to you.
All right. Yeah. Thank you very much. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of this webinar. On behalf of the webinar committee, HoB committee, and so on, I would like to thank all of you. And I would now like to hand over this time back to the Secretariat for a few announcements before we sign off. So over to the Secretariat. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Atta. So before I proceed to the housekeeping announcement, can I kindly request that all speakers, including the morning session and the evening session, can you please switch on your webcam, because we will have a group photo together with, of course, Tuan Indra and Dr. Robert, if they are still here. So everybody, can you switch on your webcam? Okay. So Vian, if you are ready, if everybody is ready, Vian, we cannot see your face.
Azman, not ready.
Azman is not available, I think.
Okay.
Okay, I think that should be okay. Okay, everybody, be ready with your smile in 1, 2, and 3.
Go. Okay. Yes.
Maybe one more time.
One
Mana
more
tahu
time.
terbiut tu mulut. Okay, 1, 2, and 3.
Okay, done.
Okay, thank you for the group photo. Sorry. Okay. Yes, thank you, Dr. Atta, for being a very great facilitator, and the session just now was very lively. We have lots of questions coming in from all the attendees, and all of the speakers did an amazing job in presenting and in answering all those questions. So I believe that all the attendees have given positive and positive feedbacks. So we really thank you. We really appreciate all of your warm and encouragements, and also good comments. So of course, I would like to also thank you, Mr. Frederick Coogan and Dr. Robert, for giving us the opening remark and also the closing remark. And of course, thank you to our handsome facilitators, Dr. Ruben Nilus and also Dr. Atta Chuk. Both were such a great facilitator. We want to see a lot of your face after this in the upcoming webinar. I think everybody agreed. Okay. Yeah, and then according to Bian, we need lots of jokes from you guys. Yeah, and then of course, thank you to the speakers, each and every one of the speakers. You guys did a very good job, a very great job, and let us continue to do research that can benefit everybody. And then, of course, thank you also to Tuan Indra as our chairman of the organizing committee for your continuous support. Of course, also to the host who is doing a lot of the kerja di belakang tabir, Miss Viviani Paul. She's still single, by the way. And of course, to all the other team members, I want to promote my friend. So and of course, thank you to all the attendees, and of course, thank you, not forgetting to the other speakers from Sabah Parks and University of Malaysia Sabah for joining us and teaming up with us in the Mensalong Scientific Expedition. So, ladies and gentlemen, as mentioned earlier, recorded webinar will be sent to you via a link in the email or posted in the YouTube. And of course, along with the group photos and along with other photos during the webinar will be posted in the Sabah Forestry Department Facebook. Selalu lajuk kena update, so you guys can check all the photos over there. And of course, as usual, we have a survey that will ask for your feedbacks, for your comments. So this survey will be sent via email and it will be sent tomorrow, yeah? So if you can kindly check your email tomorrow and please send us your feedback. So there are only 7 questions in the survey. First, what did you like about the event? What did you dislike about the event? How organized was the event? And prior to the event, how much of the information did you get? And then was the event length too long or too short? And then is there anything else they would like to share or suggestion for improvement? So we are open to any suggestions for improvement. So I think that is all. Stay tuned for the upcoming 5th webinar, which will be very, very soon. So Vian, do you want to say something? Yeah, Dr. Atta, please.
No, nothing.
Oh, okay. You were saying goodbye, is it?
I okay.
Yeah. So, is there anything you would like to add? Thank you, Tuan Indra. Thank you. So I see a lot of good comments from Rainer Billy to all panelists. Congrats, all colleagues. And there is a link posted by Vian on the survey. So you can actually also click on the link and immediately fill in the survey. From Rin to all panelists and attendees, thank you for the excellent presentations today. Very informative. We are glad to hear that. Dr. Ruben, if you want to say something, you can just interrupt me anytime because this is like a free session already. And if the speakers would like to say anything, you are most welcome. And from Aura, I think, congrats Sabah Forestry Department and all presenters. And thank you.
Bye, guys.
Goodbye, Shafika. Thank you.
Bye all. Great
Thank
job.
you, Mr.
Great job.
Hubert. Thank you, Dr. Go.
Yeah.
I like your new name.
Good job,
Thank you,
everyone.
Thank you, Dr. Ruben.
Yeah,
Great job to you as well.
I can go to sleep now.
Yeah,
I can eat now. Ya, yang Eten ekspedisi tahu itu.
Kelas matematik tambahan.
Yeah.
You have got
How
some
to
good
plus 2 plus 1.
Dayang.
Apa tuh?
You have some good memories with Dayang. Remember the last night?
Ya, itulah itu.
Lain tuh dengan last night.
Okay, bye.
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 Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Take care, everyone. Stay safe.
Thank you.
Stay safe, everyone. Bye.
Thank you. And for those who are still inside this Zoom webinar, we also would like to take this opportunity to apologize for any mistakes or for any technical problems that occurred during this webinar. So internet connection is something that we cannot control. So we deeply apologize for any technical problems that had occurred earlier from the morning session until the afternoon session. We still have 22 participants with us. Thank you, everyone. The webinar has ended. Have a great evening. Happy Zumba. Thank you, Sir Royston Tiam. Looking forward for next webinar. Bye all. Yes, we look forward for your participation as well.
Yeah,
Pian,
we
ada
will
kau punya kawan-kawan kah yang hadir nih di sini?
kawan-kawan Vivi, Ian.
Ian.
Yes.
Bak choy 1 kg.
Marianne. Thank you for sitting still with us. Tidak tengok Korea.
Hi Viviana. Viviliana. Nurul Iza. Hello. Hello and goodbye. Thank you everyone.